Haha. Thank you, Digital Drummer. Appreciate the tip. Mic was off. Yeah. I have that thing off. I don't have my shortcuts programmed yet, so I had that thing off as the initial music's playing, so you don't hear me talking to my dog, tell him to calm down, stuff like that. But forgot to turn it back on, but it's on now, so we're good. So thanks for the tip. Appreciate that. All right, so new day. As I was saying when I was muted, I hope everybody's day is going well. My day's going good. It's a little bit chilly here, but nothing to complain about. I mean, it's California chilly, so whatever. I mean, I really don't have a foot to stand on with that, right? So yeah. Yeah, you're right. I could use a few more tips to get that Stream Deck. I do need that Stream Deck for the hardware switching of some stuff, so for sure. But yeah. So today I'm going to work on building a real simple PWA with Angular and get some data manipulation going so that you can kind of like edit data and save data and work with data while in offline mode. So I saw a great request by Nick on Twitter the other day when Mike Brocky was tweeting out about having a little FOMO about Frosty Dev and I. Shout out to Frosty Dev. And I started doing this Twitch thing, which is so much fun. And Brocky was tweeting out and saying, oh man, should I do it? Should I do it? And Nick responded to him and mentioned that he should. And then also mentioned that he's would like to build this PWA app and find some way to like be able to work with data offline. So when you can build a quick little app and say you don't have cell service or something like that how do you do that and how can you get up going with that? And so I looked into that a little bit, thought about that a little bit, and thought, man, that'd make a great stream to do. And it's actually pretty straightforward to get something going right away. It doesn't feel like it's a whole lot of work to do that, so that's pretty cool. We actually can make use of some schematics and some things that Angular provides for us to add the PWA portions of things to it. And then I came across a excellent library that will allow us to work with some local storage a little bit easier. We could certainly handwrite the code to work with local storage, but there's a great library that I came across that is going to allow us to work with it with subscriptions. So that's pretty cool. So I thought we would just scaffold that up, get that kind of in place and see. So hopefully we can help out Nick and anybody else who is looking to get just kind of started, right? And give you a baseline ready to go. And we can see how simple or how straightforward it feels to get up and running with a PWA with Angular. So it should be pretty cool. Looking forward to it. Why don't we dive in and I'll get going here. Yes, Digital Drummer, I'm so glad that I bought a Stream Deck. So much easier to run the stream with it. I agree. I'm hoping that that's the case. I bet it is. I'm looking forward to it. I couldn't decide. Do I want to go for like I forget how many keys or buttons. It's like the 16 or the 6. I don't know. But there's a smaller set and a larger set. And I figure I'd probably fill them up. I figure it's kind of like monitors, Yeah, okay, I want the big one. Okay. Yeah, I figured that. Because I figure it's kind of like monitors, right? We get a monitor and then we get a secondary monitor and we're like, yeah, I got all this space as a developer. And then before you know it, you're maximizing all that space and filling it up with different windows. And you're like, I could really use a third monitor, right? And then you go like an ultra wide and you're like, oh, this is great. And then no, so I feel like it would be the same sort of thing with that hardware that I would kind of get excited and max out the buttons and then be like, I kind of want the more buttons. So yeah, so plus I can already kind of think of some things, multiple things that I could do, right? And I think the idea there is that as I see it, is that then it would give me that hardware device that I don't have to, one less window on my desktop, I guess as we're talking about monitors, that I have to deal with clicking on things and things like that, and I can just hardware click, right, to do a lot of those actions. So that should be pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Time for some coding. Uh-oh. We have a raid. That's awesome. So I'm not super familiar with how the raid stuff works. We got to see a nice little animation. Chris on code looks like he's bringing in his viewers to us, so that's pretty cool. It looks like I need to refresh my chat here. I got some styling issues going on here, so let me see if I can refresh that thing real quick. And greetings to everybody jumping in on here with the raid. I don't know if it's gonna be like a, like a WoW raid. Are y'all coming in here to, take me down, dot me up, or what? I don't know. So it's awesome to have everybody jumping in here. This is cool. All right, I'm gonna try and fix this little chat sidebar here down here that is driving me a little nuts with the styling. I think I can just go ahead and refresh this. So I'm gonna give this a try here. Let's see. Okay, somebody sent him. Oh, hoo, ha! Looks like it worked. Sweet. You fix that sidebar. Yeah, I need to fix it. Zenfurd, thanks for the follow. That's awesome. I hope you all enjoy the. Oh no! All right, we're gonna be quiet. Medgarin, thank you too for the follow. I'm always trying to be quiet on those animations so everybody can kind of soak in the audio and everything like that. So hopefully I'm timing it right. I mean, I'm trying to be quiet while it's on my screen while I see the animation playing. I hope that's actually timed. So thank you very much. All right, man, you're gonna make this tough for me here. I'm trying to get into the subject. I have to call out the follows, watch the animation, take us all in. Yeah, but this is cool. I like this. So. And big thanks, Chris on Code, for sending over the raid. This is awesome. All right. So we are going to get into this PWA with Angular. Thanks for the follow, Spodlogger. Man, it's tough, man. You would think that I've been gaming for forever, for eons, so you would think that I'd have this kind of being able to call out people's handles and stuff, even though they're always kind of crazy and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's still, I guess maybe when I gamed, I didn't do it too much. It's always with people that are on my team or stuff. So yeah, but yeah, cool. So all right. So PWA. So I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna create a Digital Drummer, thanks for the host. If we get to see another animation, I haven't seen that one live yet, so that was pretty cool. I got all kinds of different ones with this pack that I got, so I'm pretty stoked. That was cool. So thanks, Digital Drummer, for the host. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to create a new Angular CLI application, and we're going to use the beautiful minimal flag because we really want to have just the basic. We're really trying to get just something started right here to help Nick out. I think he's going on this trip pretty soon, so he's gonna have to build something pretty quick. So I wanted to kind of give a baseline of something real simple to get something going so that he doesn't have to worry about all the complexity of all these additional bits and kind of get right to this data loading and saving while he's in offline mode and then rolling from there. So let's do this. I'm in VS Code, rocking the beautiful Night Owl theme. I love this thing. I'm going to do an ng new. I am going to call this offline PWA, and I'm going to do -- minimal, and I'll do dry run just to be safe. Make sure to see everything's going to happen. Would you like to add routing? How about no SCSS? So I get those little command prompts here. Awesome. Okay, so this seems all good. So I'm going to do it without the dry run, and I'm actually going to do these other flags so I don't have to deal with the no Angular console. Yeah, we're just going straight command line. Angular console is awesome. Digital Drummers mentioned that. Obviously, it's a GUI for working with the Angular CLI or NX and all this stuff. Those type of essentially any project that has Angular CLI under the hood, Angular console is going to give you all this functionality to kind of work with our typical command line things with that. Maybe I'll do a stream where I play around with that and kind of showcase that. It's pretty cool. but it's all UI type of stuff. And so if you like navigating the menus and clicking on stuff and visually seeing stuff, it rocks, right? But right now I'm kind of feeling the terminal thing, so we're rocking with the terminal, right? But good suggestion there. All right. And I want to go back really. Yeah, Chris on Code, you say I just say the first 5 letters of the handles that people when they follow and stuff. Yeah, I kind of look at that. It's kind of always a tough decision. Like, what's the part? Like, what's the, is there no capitalization or no underscore? Like, where does a word end, a term end, and the next term start? And so you just rock with it, right? I don't know. So hopefully anybody can just, if I say it wrong, jump in the chat. Tell me how it should be said. Tell me what your intentions are with your handle, whether you've got something unique or cool or some term, or you just typed in a bunch of letters just to get something that wasn't taken, which sometimes happens, and we're good with that. So, all right. So -- minimal, we're going to do -- routing equals false. So we'll just skip the command prompts by adding in these flags when I run this. Sarah, thanks for the follow. Sarah, yeah. I feel like I need that animated GIF. Are we going GIF or GIF? I don't know. Animated GIF where sprinkling the salt every time the follower plays. That's what that music kind of reminds me of. Somebody sprinkling like magic. I don't know. I mean, it is magic, right? Every follower is a magic moment. I feel it. Okay, -- routing equals false. -- yeah, GIF is peanut butter digital drummer. Yeah, I mean that's what I think about, like crunchy GIF, creamy GIF. I mean that's like, sandwiches when we were young, right? -- style equals SCSS, and so I'll just skip some of those prompts. I don't know if we're gonna need routing if Nick was liking routing for his app, but we're not gonna do anything with routing, so we'll just leave that as is for now here. Boom, get this created. All right, now I'm going to be quiet here for a minute. I want y'all to let me know if you can hear my dog snoring after this alert. O'Brien the Zombie, thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. What does minimal skip? So minimal... Good question, Digital Drummer. Thank you. The -- minimal flag is going to not add any testing frameworks. So Karma, Jasmine, those are not going to get added in there. It's going to create a basic application with a single TS file for your app component. So everything's going to be inline, your HTML, your CSS, that sort of thing. Just very basic. Kind of stripped down to the bare essential sort of things. It still has the environments TS files in there, but that's pretty much it, right? With the intent of it being something that works really good for doing like teachings and trainings and things like that. So you can spin up an app and not have this extra stuff. Say you want to get into just like talking about components or creating a directive, or kind of like what we're doing here, right? With just jumping into using the PWA and saving some data. I really just need one component and kind of not all that other stuff. So it helps it a little bit easier, I think, to digest the project code and things like that by launching it with the minimal flag. So that's what it does. Hope that answered that question. Both Son, I'm liking the theme that you're using for your stream. Thank you. Big fan of the 80s, kind of growing up in, so that kind of mixes in there. So when I found this theme, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one. And then I saw all those animations for the alerts. I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh man, I hope. And so I spent a whole lot of time like just demoing. Like you can in the streaming software, you can fire off samples, like trigger the alerts, and so I just sit there like all day triggering the alerts just to see those. Even though I can open up they're like WebM files, I can open them up and just play them, but I got to do it. I don't know. I was excited and geeked up about it. So yeah. All right. No, on this analytics thing, I gotta figure this out. The last couple times when I've been creating stuff, I get this prompt, and I've mentioned before that I think it's probably because I'm running a beta version of the CLI, so I could be running like 8.0 beta, but I haven't confirmed that, and I don't know. So whatever's. Boom, do that. Clear this. I will CD into offline mode. No, offline PWA, right? And then I am going to add in the test frameworks later. Digital drummer asset. Yeah, I'm assuming, I haven't tried it yet, but probably maybe ng add with some of those packages. Maybe there's something already set up for that. I don't know. There's the follow animation for Little Sun. Thank you. All right, and now I'm going to open up code from the terminal, -R for replace the reuse the existing window. Boom. Okay, so now we've got our offline PWA app that we've created, our Angular CLI project. It's got just the one app. If we go into app, we're very minimal, right? With the -- minimal, we've got this app component TS, which has this inline template. I'm just gonna go ahead and dump this right now. We've got our app component, right? We've got inline styles, kind of everything all ready to go, and very simple, basic sort of thing. So it's gonna allow us to kind of focus directly on what we want to do here, which is going to be add the PWA functionality, and then add some ability to start editing and saving data, and then check and make sure that that's working in offline mode. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add all the PWA bits to this. And I'm super stoked about this because we can do this through an Angular package. So if we go over here, let me switch over to my browser. So the Angular.io website has an awesome write-up on working with PWAs. And it's essentially the formula is kind of, you're using service workers and some manifest files and things like that to kind of combine and make this PWA experience for our application, right? So it's really going to involve the ability for people to, essentially what's like pin to your desktop, so let's say we're on a mobile device and we want to, we browse this web application and we go to this URL. If we have this manifest file, we can get prompted to save this to our home screen. And when we save it to our home screen, and then it becomes this, almost like this, looks like a native app, right? It has like a little launcher. That manifest file allows us to define what we want for the icon that we want to use for that, what the name of that application will be, and it ends up landing there on our mobile devices, on our screen, the home screen, or wherever we want to put it. And then we can use that, and that'll essentially launch the web browser and launch that website or that web application. So the manifest file is going to allow us to kind of get that functionality. And then there's going to be the service worker part of it, which is going to handle caching resources, making this thing like a mini application that can handle things like running offline. It can boot up really fast because it's going to utilize this cache mechanism to identify resources that it should cache locally on your device or your machine, so that as soon as somebody launches it, it's going to hit that cache for those specific resources first, and then go out online and do the rest of the stuff. So it gives it that feel that it pops open right away. But then it also allows this functionality to go into offline mode, where then there's some bits that are already there. So if somebody comes back on their phone, launches that app the next day or whatnot, and they don't have internet connection or data connection, then that app and the bits that are part of that service worker and that caching mechanism will show up and launch. So you could effectively have this thing that's working, a web app that's working in a web browser with no internet connection, and do some things depending on how you've architected your app, right? Or how we've architected our app. And so the idea here is that we want to be able to say, like, could we have something? And I'm going to do this approach. I'm going to make it, so the request was thinking about, Nick was thinking, could I load up this, like a JSON file with some data, have my app have that already, Jax05, thanks for the follow. Man, maybe I should get a green screen. So I go back and forth. I was talking to Frosty Dev the other day about this, about the whole green screen versus what I got. I like to rock what I got without the green screen because my homeboy dog here, he'll sometimes walk into the screen and He's pretty awesome to be on camera. Plus, it's the same thing I do for Angular Air, so I kind of like the fact that there's the background. But man, if I had a green screen right now, I could totally reach across and just twinkle on top of that follower every time that comes up. So, but yeah, you know, not going to happen right now. So, so this idea was that, okay, could this application take this JSON file with this initial seeded data, right? A list of things, and open that up when that app loads, and then you have the ability to kind of work that data later, right? As you're offline, you can make some changes to that data, add new data or whatever, and that would persist so that each time you open up that app, even if you're offline, you still have like the records that you changed and things like that. So I'm not going to go down right in the first part with doing that loading of the JSON data, but I can explain how we could get there and do that. I'm basically going to make it to where we can just start entering the data and save it locally and then modify it and keep it going. So everything would start with data entry from within the application, but we'll kind of get the picture from there. So that's kind of what the whole PWA story is going to give us. And so there's this package at Angular/PWA that is going to set up all those bits for us. It's going to set up the manifest file. It's going to set up the service worker stuff, all the logic that's needed for that, and get it all into our Angular project. So we're just going to run that. I'm going to do ng-add at Angular/PWA -- project to tell it what project I want to target, and then the project name. And that will add all those bits that we need. Pretty simple, or pretty straightforward. Try not to say simple because sometimes it's challenging, and that's fine. And so it kind of feels just straightforward, right? Like not a whole lot of work that we have to do that. So let's jump into that. I'm going to go back into the terminal, and I'm going to go ng-add. And if anybody's not familiar with ng-add, it's a schematic that gives us a way to add packages that then the authors of those packages, and I probably need like Brocky on here to vet this for me, but I'm pretty sure this is the case, right? That it's a schematic that's going to allow us to, allows authors of packages to kind of tap into that to do multiple things when you install that package. Things like, just multiple different things. And so it can handle all these little bits. So like, for example, if I was to add this package by itself, just by like an npm install, like say I go to like Angular Elements and npm install that, maybe that'll just add one bit, and then there's other stuff that the ng-add would actually know to do to give me the whole experience. So instead of adding things individually, add can help the authors of these packages provide a whole list of things that need to happen to make our experiences as developers a lot easier to consume those things, right? So ng-add at Angular/PWA, and this requires me to give it a project name, and I'm going to give it a name. So that name, could be a little confusing, right? At this point, it's like, okay, well, what's my project name? I just, what am I supposed to give for that? And really what that is going to be is that's going to be this app name. And we can find the app name by going into the angular.json file. And we look under here under projects. And so we got one project. So the Angular CLI is going to set up, even though we said minimal and it's only creating one application in our workspace, that gets created as a project in the projects entry. So we actually have one, and it became the same name when we did ng-new and gave it a name. It used that same name. So offline PWA is going to be the name of the project. So that's what I'm going to want to put here. Offline PWA. And wow, that was loud. PWA. Hey. All right, offline PWA. I think that's good. I'm gonna do a dry run. I try and get in the habit of always doing the dry run just to be safe. That way, if I did a flag wrong or did something I didn't expect, then I haven't got myself into anything yet. So I'm gonna do that. Lighting the green screen is a pain. Yes, I totally feel that. I got my daughter a big giant green screen for Christmas. Or maybe Santa did, or somebody did. But yeah, and playing around with that thing, it's a challenge to get that, like you're saying, digital drummer, to get the lighting. Because then when you chroma key out yourself, right, it's like sometimes you get the fade effect and translucent, you look like a ghost, and it's, touchy. So I hear you. All right. So that seems like that's going to be what I want. looking familiar to what I've seen. So I'm going to run this without the dry run to actually do it. I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll get. Oh, see. Okay. Okay. This is interesting. Actually, I ran into this the other day. This might be an issue with this package. I don't know, but I did a dry run. It looks like it actually added stuff in my dry run, which I didn't expect that to happen. So that may be something that needs to be fixed or updated. But yeah, as I can see, so it's giving me the error. But I think the errors are going to be fine. I think I can just clear this out because I think what happened is on the dry run, it actually created it. So we can see here, I can go in here and I can look now. What this Angular/PWA added is it added this manifest JSON file. And so this file is going to be this, the file that's going to allow when we do in our browser, in our mobile device, when we say we want to save this to our home screen, we're going to read this data and utilize that for things like the name that's going to display. So we have that icon in our mobile device. At the bottom of it, it's going to display this name. We can customize that what we want it to be. Theme color, it's going to, there's different theme colors and background colors, and depending on the different devices, like iOS or Android or things like that, they kind of consume it differently. I wish I had this link. I don't have it on this machine, so I'll have to figure it out and I'll tweet it out. But this site is sick. Somebody set up this site that's just amazing for handling your manifest stuff. It can help build these files, but it also shows you visually with these settings, this is how iOS is going to consume it. This is how Android's going to consume it. This is how Windows Mobile, if it's still going to be a thing, is going to consume it, and that sort of thing. Oh, but on a Windows 10 machine where you're going to be able to do, might be able to do already, say PWAs as apps. It's going to show you what those are going to be like. So those theme colors, the background colors, those come into play into how those things consume it and where they do, if they put a border around it, if your tile becomes that theme color. So I'm not going to dive into that in this here, but that's what all these things are doing for us with this manifest.json file. And then the icons are going to be the list of all these different icon assets that we want to provide that will help for the different sizes. So if we're on an iPad that's got higher resolution and retina type of display, we can define what those icon files look like for each of those. And so with this add Angular/PWA package, it's given us all of these initial ones, and it dumped these into the assets/icons file. And of course, it's the beautiful Angular shield, right? But we can come in here and we can now create our own icon for our application and just size it these dimensions and then replace these files with our own icon that we want for our application, right? And then the manifest file is already pointing to those to consume those. So it's already wired up. All that heavy lifting done for us. Pretty sweet. And then the other thing it's going to add is going to add this ngsw-config.json file. And this is going to allow some configuration for the assets that we want the service worker to cache. And so out of the box, it's going to set up some stuff. So it's going to cache the favicon, the index page, all our CSS and JS files. So the bundles and things that get built out of that, it's going to cache all that, as well as anything that's in our assets directory. It's going to cache all that. So basically, it's telling the service worker, here's what I want you to do. When somebody goes to this site in their browser, pull all this stuff down and then cache it, and then the service worker will know this is the stuff I want to pull when somebody relaunches the application, right? I'm going to pull all this from my cache rather than going out online and requesting it. Now, there's a whole path to handling, because you might say, well, hey, Schwarty, what about when I need to update my code and push new changes to my application, right? How are people going to get updates to my index file or my JS files, right? And stuff like that. Well, there's a mechanism built in for that with the code that the service worker can check for that. And there's actually, I believe, some additional Angular services and code that we could bring into our project to make that even easier for us to write in our Angular apps to say, hey, do this when there's a new update, or check for updates and see if there's a new update, and then let the user know, hey, this app has an update, please refresh your browser. And if you think about it, like one of the things that'll happen is the service worker, when somebody goes to that, the service worker is going to take control and do its thing to try and find all these cached assets. So that means it's like, well, how do you know? And then it's going to find out if it's got an update. So it's almost like it's got to do 2 trips in order to actually receive the update. So the user would have to go to it, and you'd want to tell them, hey, I've actually got an update. So then they know, refresh your browser, reloads it, the service worker reloads, gets the new updates, gets the new caching, and you're up and going. So there's a little bit of challenges with that, the mentality and thinking about how that works, right? And then it becomes a little bit of challenges we develop locally to kind of get that vibe and that feel of like, well, how do we change things and force our service worker to change and things like that. But that's kind of the gist of it, the idea, what's going on, the bits that we've got in here. Again, it's just ng add, got all that. Didn't have to write any of this code. There's a whole lot of code that goes into the service worker itself that's going to run this JavaScript logic to kind of wire it up and do these things. All that stuff comes with this package, so we don't have to deal with any of that. So it's really straightforward to kind of get up and going and add PWA functionality and service worker functionality to our Angular applications. Boom, like that, right? Okay. So we got that. Let's see, what did it do to the Angular JSON file? Oh, so it just added some new assets, right? So this project in the build, it's going to say, okay, we'll take these things from the assets folder and deploy them to our dist directory or wherever this thing builds at. And usually it's the favicon, the assets directory itself. And so then this just added the manifest.json file because that's what the browser's going to read, in these different destinations. So that needed to be did. So it took care of adding that for us. And then remember, it put its icons inside of the assets directory. So this thing right here, which is saying grab the whole assets folder and everything underneath it, those will automatically be deployed as well in the build. They'll be built into our dist directory that then we can deploy them to a website or whatnot, or host. Okay. Angular JSON file, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to commit this code to kind of have like a stopping point, in case that the next thing I do, it gets me in trouble or I do something messy there, then I can roll back. So I kind of like that. So I'm just going to say add PWA stuff. Okay. All right. Okay, so now that I've got that added, I'm all set to go. I can start kind of using that. And we can see that in action. See how one of the things that we're going to need to do with the PWA is, in order to see the service worker working, right? It's interesting because what happens is the service worker gets installed in our browser and then the browser is keeping track of it. So we're going to have this need to refresh it, and it gets kind of wonky, and it's going to know if I'm logged into my browser as my user, right, it's going to install under that, and it's going to be linked to kind of that, and it's a little bit challenging. So one of the things the Angular.io docs recommends as you build it is to maybe open it up in a incognito window and then run your app in there so that you can see it working and deal with that. And then when you refresh it, it's got this new session, so it's the service worker is fresh in there. So that's what we'll do. But the other thing that we need to do is we're going to need to build this for production in order for the service worker to light up and happen. So, and we're going to want to, I believe that's the case. I better check that because it might not need to build for production, but I believe we're going to need to host this thing using something like HTTP server instead of ng-serve in order to be able to get the service worker functionality and develop locally. So we're going to do that. So let me just kind of launch these things right now. We're going to we'll do ng-serve to see this part of it, to see what happens here. So we're going to do -o for open. That's an open flag that'll open it up in my existing browser. I have a couple different sets of them open, so I have no idea which one it's going to open in. So we'll give it a try. Okay, so throw that up there. And Preston Lamb, what's going on? From what I can tell, the app module TS only has the service worker enabled in production by default. Change that. Okay, that's what ng add sets it to. Cool. Yeah, so it's mentioning this right here, right? If we collapse this here. Enabled environment production. Ooh, check this out. Got this new VS Code extension that I'm digging. Put the spotlight on this thing. Boom. Ooh, so we can gray out everything else and just see a set of lines. I have this set to like 4 lines above and 4 lines below, but you could tweak that, and you can tweak like how much it fades out the other code. This thing is sweet. So get a little focus on that. Yeah, so like you're saying, Preston, enabled with environment.production. So if production is set to true, then that's when the service worker is getting enabled. What is the extension? Yep, good question. That's, I think it's, let's see, extensions, probably at the bottom. No, prettier, peacock, and PM, night owl. Where is it at? Collapse this thing. Is there an easier way? Oh, VS Code dimmer? Yeah, okay. Thank you, dimmer. VS Code dimmer, there you go. Thanks, Preston. Yeah, VS Code dimmer, so. Oh, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I think it's like great. It'll be great for presenting and demoing code and stuff like that. To be able to do this, and I've got mine set to where did my thing go here? So I just use Control Alt D. I just bound that as my shortcut to turn it on and off. So it's pretty easy to flip it in there, and then you got that, and then yeah, see as you move your cursor up here, it highlights 4 above and 4 below, or dims out everything but 4 below and 4 above based on what I set it to. Right? You could set it to whatever. I think the default is just the 1 line, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. So turning the spotlight on and off. Yeah. Okay. So, yep. So it looks like that's, yeah, the service worker is only going to come into play. And ngsw-worker.js, that's provided by this package. So it's going to be available to us. And that's where it's going to do all this service worker logic and stuff, the JavaScript code that we could certainly roll by hand, but it's sweet that this thing's already got it and has it for us. And so when we're in production mode, when we build for production, the service worker is going to be in there and working, right? And let me just go back to the app component and give this thing an output, because I deleted all that, and I think we're looking at an empty page. And so, okay, so I'm going to make this form be as Nick mentioned this app, I started thinking about, so one of the things I do is I get in the ocean and get a lot of waves every weekend, and I've been wanting to have something where I can kind of track each session. We call them sessions every time we go out, and track the session, like a start time and end time, and who I went out with, and what we, maybe what the size of the surf was or something like that. But to be able to kind of like have this log of events of what I did, and it'd be sweet to have that as like a little PWA simple app that's on my phone, but built with as a web app, as Angular, right? And that, most of the time I'm somewhere where that has a connection, but sometimes we go places, I'm not going to give them away, secret spots, but that don't have great cell service. And so that'd be pretty cool to just be able to kind of track that and be in this offline mode. So real similar to kind of what Nick was looking for. So I thought that'd be cool. So I'm just going to kind of make this a session tracker. I'll just call it that. And we'll just we're going to put a couple of form fields in there and stuff like that. But let's take a look at this. All right. So we see we've got our session tracker app. I'm going to blow this up here a little bit. And so I just did an ng serve. I didn't do production build. So we don't have any service worker going. I'm in Chrome, so I can go into the application tab under the dev tools and go to service workers. And I can see I have nothing here right now, excuse me, because in development mode, not production mode, right? So I'm going to build that thing for production mode, and we'll see what it does. And I'm also going to open up a incognito browser, and we'll go localhost 4200, and we'll bring this into play. And we'll go back to our code. And I'll stop this, clear that. I'll go ngserve dash prod, right? And we'll build for production, and we'll see what that does. Kind of not run. Let's see. Anybody seen that message before? Familiar with that? The underlying server that the Angular CLI uses is not designed for production use for serving things this way. So they got a nice warning here letting you know that hey, you can serve with production flag on, but you don't really want to deploy the CLI stuff and use ngserve on your production servers to serve, because it's not designed to be that, right? Okay, so we got that. Flip back over to our incognito browser. Reload this. Okay, we get this error, right? And I believe this is because we have to host this with a different server, I believe. So let me hit the docs. We'll go back to that. And let's see. And we'll just kind of dive down here and go, okay, adding a service worker to the project. We got to build it for prod, so we're going to have to build it. And so ngserve, because ngserve does not work with service workers, you must use a separate HTTP server to test your project locally. Okay? So right in the docs, cool, no problem. So that's what we're going to need to do. So I'm going to go back to my code, and I'm going to stop this. Clear that out. I am going to add HTTP-server library to be able to use the HTTP server as a simple server to serve up locally. Now, I'm going to just add this to this particular project. Maybe most of you have done this before. Are using an HTTP server, maybe you have it installed globally. I mean, certainly something you could do. You could do npm I for install, -g for global, and then HTTP-server. And that's pretty cool, because then now from any command line throughout your machine, you could run an HTTP server. So it doesn't have to be just like for this project or whatever. At any point, you could spin up a local server and do that. So that's kind of cool if you install it globally. But I'm just going to add it right now to this particular project. So just in case somebody pulls down this project, I'm going to put it up as a repo, and somebody can pull it down and they'd have everything that they need within it. They wouldn't have to install anything globally to be able to run this and kind of do the same sort of thing that I'm doing right now. So that's why I'm going to put it in here locally. Okay. All right. So let's go back here and see what this thing wants. Not that one. This one. Okay. npm I. I'm going to save it. I'm going to -d to save it as a dev dependency into this project, into the package.json file. http-server. Cannot type that for some reason right now. All right. And check some chat here. Let's see. You can run npx http-server2. I think that's what the docs show. Preston said, okay. I forget, somebody refresh me on npx. I guess I could look it up, but I forget what the deal is with npx. I haven't used it in a bit. Started using Angular HTTP server, which does have fallback, but ran into issues with the base href. Wasn't. Okay, so yeah. All right, HTTP server installed. Okay. So we got that. So now what I want to do, if I go back to the docs real quick, it's going to tell me I'm going to want to run an HTTP server, port, pick whatever port, they're telling 8080, and then give it a command and tell it to target where I want to run this from, right? From my dist directory and my project name. And that'll launch that HTTP server. So I'm going to do a couple things with that to kind of make that a little bit easier for me. Because I also have to build, right? ng build -- prod, because this is going to, the HTTP server is going to read from the dist directory. So it's going to need a build output. Now, when we ng serve, that's giving like a virtual build. We don't have an actual like directory that we navigate to, that we look at that sort of that dist output for, right? So we need the build so then the HTTP server can target those build artifacts. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. So I'm going to write this into an npm script and just make it easy. I can kind of serve from a simple command and kind of do the build and the serve at the same time. So I'm going to go into my package.json file. I'm going to go in here, scripts. I'm going to add one. I'm going to call it serve, since that's not taken yet. And I need to do ng build -- prod. And then I'm going to do double ampersands. And I forget if this is going to be an issue between Windows and Mac or not. So if you're on a Mac, your results may vary or maybe not. But I'm on a Windows PC, so I can do this whole streaming thing. It's a little easier to stream on the PC so far, for what I found. So anyway, so I'm going to say, build -- prod, and then when that's done, do the HTTP server -p for port. We'll do 8080. Sure, I think it was like -c-l. Let me look. Actually, I'm not familiar with what those two commands are. No, C-1. I'm not familiar with what those commands are for HTTP server, but it's showing me to do that, so I'll just blindly follow. and then the directory. Okay. So C-1 space dist / and then our dist directory. Actually, let me build it so we can find out what the dist directory is. I believe it's going to be the same name as the project, which is offline PWA, but we can find that out by going ng -build -- prod. Build that. And then in VS Code, we will see. What up, doggy? Hi, I know. Homeboy's going to get hungry here soon. So nobody say the word FOOD. Or EAT, just keep it on the down low. Otherwise, he gets like crazy excited, and he's getting old. He can't be affording to be all crazy excited. And I'll feed him after the stream. He's gonna be fine, I promise. All right, so C1 says don't cache anything. Okay, thank you, Digital Drummer, for that tip. Appreciate that. So no caching. Okay, cool. All right, so I got the build. I see the dist directory over here. I've got offline PWA as my directory. Let me add that in here, and then I actually want to kind of talk about what's in the dist directory. So dist / offline PWA. Okay. So now I've got a nice little script. I can do npm /run /serve, and that will serve up. That will do the build, and then serve up the HTTP server to be able to hit our PWA and see the service worker in action and check it all out. So it should be pretty cool. But real quick, in this dist directory, so we can see that when we built this, it did our similar stuff. If you've seen the dist stuff before for an Angular application, this might look familiar. It's all kind of our bundled files, right? Our main file, our polyfills, all that sort of thing. And then we see our manifest JSON that was declared in our angular.json file as another asset that needs to get deployed. So that got there. And then we see our ngsw-worker.js and ngsw.json file, and those are our service worker things that got provided by that package, right? So they got output there, and we got everything we need for there, as well as some other files, some other JS files for service worker stuff. That's the plumbing, that's challenging, kind of going right on our own. We don't have to do any of that. We got that. So cool. Okay, so now we got that in place. Let's serve this thing up and let's see the service worker. So if we clear this out, I'm going to do npm run serve, right? Crossing fingers, toes, whatever, dog legs. Good boy. Oh, see, look, he's looking at me. He's giving me that puppy dog look, even though he's like 12. See, he knows. He's going to make me have to walk away for a minute and give him that FOOD. Hi, buddy. Look, he's crazy too. He's like a big giant dog. He'll climb up. Look, okay. All right. I know you didn't come here to see my dog. Maybe he came here to see my dog. I don't know. He maybe needs his own stream. Okay, so we got that. It's running. It's running on port 8080. I'm going to switch back to a digital drummer mentions, would you want to add --watch to the build command so you don't have to stop the server every time you make a change? I love that suggestion. That would be great. Why don't I just do that right now? I'll cancel the server, clear this off. So we're talking for the HTTP server, or are we talking the build? Yeah, you're right. So I think I'd put it on here, right? And your suggestion would be --watch here, but you're mentioning it would probably stop you from getting to the second command after the 2 ampersands. Yeah, because this is going to start the watch mode, so it would hold the terminal open, right? Hold the prompt open, so it would never then know to go and run the next command. So we'd have to run kind of those two things separate. And that's definitely like something for another stream, right? Because we could do it, totally could do it, right? And there's ways to do that and stuff. Roger, thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. Thanks for giving us the animation. Really appreciate that. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, so let's do this. I'll probably might have to do some stuff, but we'll ride with this for now. And actually, what we're going to do is we're going to get to a point where we have this thing built, and then we're just going to go offline mode, and we're going to see that stuff working, right? So we're not really too concerned about the initial development sort of thing. We'll just manually do it right now. So run this. Go back to this browser. See if this is done. Okay. Reload this. Oh, yeah. It would help to do the right port. We're not 4200 anymore. We're 8080. Go to that, and woohoo, we've got a service worker. We can see that in the application service workers section of our dev tools. We see it knows the source ngsw-worker.js. That looks familiar. We've got it running. We've got all kinds of stuff. So that's in there now, right? So now we got our service worker. We can click here for offline mode. And I believe if I refresh this, we see our HTML is still being rendered there, right on the refresh, because it didn't have to go out to that server to get it, because it knows that to cache that, and the service worker is doing its job. And we got that, right? So let's put this back in online mode. So now let's go back to our code. So we got that running, we got that in there. We can see that in action. Let's do a quick change here. Let's add a couple things to here. Let's just add our initial form. So we're going to be like form. Where's my Emmet? It's not here. Form. Oh, that'll work. Nope, that won't work. Killing me, Smalls. I thought I had Emmet inline templates working earlier with VS Code, but maybe I'm missing. What am I missing here? Why is it squiggling me? Probably because. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a. I'm going to use the template-driven forms with Angular to build a quick form here to handle kind of our data collection thing. So the idea is going to be that I'm going to have a form here for tracking these surf sessions, right? And it's going to take in a start time and an end time. And then I'll be able to submit that. And I'm going to submit that and store that data in local storage and be able to retrieve it. And then I'm going to have a list that'll display it. So let me just kind of add that in here real quick. So I'm going to do form. Actually, I need to come back into the app module. Actually, I need to go all the way back. Let me go back to the terminal. I'm going to go ahead and just stop this server and I'll restart it here in a minute. I need to add Angular forms to this project so I can make use of the template driven forms because we're in this minimal. I can't remember if the default CLI project comes with forms packaged in there already, but the minimal flag, it doesn't have it in there. So I have to add it. So I'm going to do ng add at Angular/forms. So I'm going to do npm install -s for save, I think is the regular save, the dependency save, at Angular/forms. Okay, clear that out. Check our package JSON. Angular forms is in there now, so cool, we're rocking that. So now I can go into my app module. I can import the forms module and not get my IntelliSense complete auto import. Not sure why, but we'll just manually add it. Import from. Okay, so how many people out there is this how I type my imports? And I can't get over it. And I remember somebody mentioned out on the Twitterverse before about the desire, wish that we change this order of this, right? It's kind of like writing SQL back in the day, right? Or if you still do. So I do import and I give myself some little curly brackets. And sometimes I even do a little formatting first. And then I go right to the from statement at Angular forms, and then I go back, right? Super inefficient. Forms module, right? Oh, hey, get out of here. What are you doing? Forms module, right? So now that's how I kind of type my import statements when I have to manually type them. I don't always manually type my import statements, but when I do, okay, that's old. That's played out, right? But anyways, that's, yeah. So, kind of wish it just would have, found it for me. Not sure why I wouldn't get it squiggly here on this one. I believe that's in there. Angular/service worker. Yeah, it looks like it's in here. So maybe it's code doing its thing every once in a while where it kind of squiggles. I don't know. Okay, so I've added the forms module. I got that in there. Now I can go to my app component and I can kind of build out a template driven form here in the most basic scenarios possible. Again, just kind of want to get this thing basic up and going. So I am going to, with the template driven forms, there's going to be a directive that's going to find any form elements and automatically do the form wire up stuff. So just having the form element in here should be enough for that part. So I'm going to add a couple of fields for our form. I'm going to do start, keep this real basic. I'll do an input. There's my Emmet. Is there text anywhere? Just regular input. Type text. And I am going to give this a name. And I'm going to name this start time. And I'm going to use the directive ng model. Okay? And so the ng model is going to tell the template forms, hey, this is a form field, essentially making it a form control. So it's part of this form group that it underlyingly built. Underlyingly, not sure that's a term, but I mean, if I say, how many times do I need to say it to make it a term? We get everybody on social underlying and whatever. End, we do end, input, use some Emmet, boom, name equals end time, ng model, okay? So I've got two form fields telling Angular template forms, hey, use the ng model directive. I want you to be monitoring these things. They're going to be part of my form group. And then with the name, that name is going to be used for the underlying data structure that's going to come out of it. So I'm going to have a property on my value of my form of start time and end time. And those are going to be whatever these input values are. So that'll be cool. Then I'm going to add a submit button. We will do button submit. Okay, I'll just say save, right? And type submit. We're good on there. So now I'm going to add a couple things to this form in order to be able to handle the submit and give it a function. Actually, I'm going to do that in here. I'm going to go down here to the app component. I am going to add a save method. This will take in, I'm going to take in the form control, the entire form control, which is an Angular structure, Angular type, and it'll allow me to do a couple things. And I'll tell you here in a minute why I'm doing this. So I'm going to go form, how about that? And I'll type it with form, actually form group, sorry, form group is the root group of a form, a root object of form. Okay, and then I'm going to do, there's going to be nothing returned, so I'm going to do void, do my TypeScript thing. Okay, and let's see if we can get some import statement here, import form group from Angular Forms. Cool. Okay. So now when I save it, this is where I'm going to save it to local storage, right? So now I can, this is the way I'm going to essentially seed that data into my PWA and seed it into this local storage. We'll get to that here in a minute. So I'm going to just do some pseudocode here. So save to local storage. And then I want to clear out the form, clear the form. Now I can do the clear the form, pretty cool, by utilizing this form group. The form group has a reset method on it. So I'll just do that right now. I'll do form.reset, reset, okay. And so right now I have this form. So now I need to wire up the submit action to the form, to this template driven form. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make use of ng submit, which is available to me. And this is going to handle the form submission, and it will call save. And I'm going to want to pass the form group, the underlying form, to the save method. So on the form directive for template forms has a export as that it will export the form group for me if I make use of a template variable. So I can do this. I could do £f as our template variable, set that equal to ng form, the ng form directive, I believe. And then this will export our underlying form group that represents this form that has done all the magical binding for us as these template driven forms. And then I can use that template scoped variable. I think we're calling them something. I don't think they're template variables anymore, but I'm blanking on what that is. So that terminology may be a little bit different. But I'm going to send that form. It's like context or something like that, I think. So I'm going to send that form into the save method. And then that's going to pass that into my class function save, right? And it'll reset it. And so here, let's do a beautiful console log for now. And we'll do form.value. And that will give us the JSON object that represents the form fields that we have declared in here with this ng model directive, and we can see the start time and end time that people enter. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I am going to relaunch this. I'm going to reserve this thing, npm run serve. Back to my offline. So I just refreshed this thing. And when I refreshed this thing, I think what happened is at that point, it reloaded the service worker stuff, the cached things, then got notified that there was a new version. And so now it's waiting. I believe in the second refresh, now our form's going to show up. So I'm going to refresh again. There we go. Okay, so that's that concept of that service working on our PWAs with that caching, is that you have that scenario where the next time somebody goes to it, it's going to pull up the cache stuff and then go find out, is there some new versions of this stuff? And it's going to say, oh, yes, there is. And so it's essentially the next time the user refreshes, that's when they'll get the new bits, right? And that's where that other additional code that Angular provides that we can get from the package, from the PWA package. I believe these services and things that allow us in code to be able to identify that that's needed, and then we can present the UI in our Angular apps to let people know, hey, you just launched this, but you know what? There's an update. So you need to refresh your browser or do something along those lines, or maybe even take it to the next level and provide some socket connection where you could ping out to people who are running your app and let them know, I got a new version. If you stop what you're doing and reload the page, you'll get it or whatnot. So, stuff like that. But I don't think that part comes in package, but maybe it's something we could think about building at some point, right? Okay, so we got our form in here, right? I come in here and I give it a start time. I get up early to get waves. It's always the best when there's no wind and least amount of crowds. So let's say we get out in the water at 6 a.m. and we end at 9 a.m. And then let's just save that. And so now we see in the console, we've got our console log, right? Start time, end time. Cool, that's our form structure. We kind of all got that going. And then we can see that the form cleared, right? So it cleared it as well. So pretty cool, real easy, right? We can make use of the template forms, do some real basic stuff. I think on the Angular.io docs, the examples and stuff that show the using template-driven forms, they kind of do like the banana in a box around the NG model. Anybody's ever heard of that term? You do the two-way binding with the parentheses, parentheses and square brackets. And this kind of gives you this two-way binding, and they call it a banana in the box because it's like the two parentheses look like a banana when they're together, and the square ones look like a box. And anywho, and so it shows you doing that, and then like you have this two-way data binding, and you create a backing object and stuff like that, and that's certainly something that you can do, right? But I find that this is like super easy to get a form up and going. You want to collect this data and have access to the data that's getting saved. You can still do all these validators and everything that you want on here and still accomplish all that stuff. So it can get you pretty far with still keeping a pretty minimal, clean, way to kind of build forms in Angular and get to what you need to do, especially like in this case here. So like this approach. So maybe you like it too. I don't know. Okay. All right, so we got our form, we got that wired up, we got kind of that in place. We see the service worker in action, right? We saw it. We could go in something like this, like do a p tag, log a new session, and just for sake of showing this, I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back. Oh, you know what? This is not going to work because I need to rebuild it, right? So this is what the watch would have been good. So I'm going to just kill the server or stop the server. I'm going to restart again, run this command again so that it'll rebuild. And actually, this script that I have may not be the script that we want to do. So, because I may just want to like start the server and then just periodically run the build. I would want to run those two things separate, really. So, in hindsight, looking at this script, it's kind of causing me more pain now as I go forward than it is helpful. But maybe I want to use it for something else, so I don't know. So I'd leave it in there. Maybe I'd use it in a end-to-end test run or something like that. So, but ideally, I guess I'd want to go something like this, right? Well, just run the build with watch mode alongside of that, and that would be fine, which I could do, yeah. So, all right, digital drummer, what would cause you to pick reactive forms instead? So I usually kind of think about, that's a great question. I usually look at when I need to handle like live value changes with, it's tough, right? Because let me share you a little secret here. The template forms under the hood is using all like the form control and form group stuff that is used by reactive forms as well. So if you really wanted to like dig in, you could get to like value changes and work with that stuff and deal with that stuff with template driven forms. So I guess before I say, well, because I'd want to use value changes and get these live value changes piping through my inputs so that I could do stuff with, I better pump the brakes a bit, because I could get to that in template forms, creating kind of custom directives and stuff. So yeah, reactive forms. Well, I think that like one of the approaches with reactive forms is you're building the form model structure within your code. So you'd be bringing in like a form builder class, and then inside of your TypeScript file for your component, you would build out your structure of your form, and then you would be binding that to the HTML with the reactive forms stuff. And that allows you to like manage and test and dynamically build your form pieces in code rather than just in HTML, right? So I think that that's probably one of the bigger reasons why I might look at going, well, that's why I would go reactive forms, is that ability to have that form representation in code completely, and to be able to like test it and do dynamic things with it and pass chunks of it and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay, so we got our form. I restarted the server. I come back in here real quick, and we see we got the form. I'm going to refresh it. We see we still have the same form again because we got to do the double refresh, the two-step. We refreshed again, and I thought I would see my message. Why am I not seeing my message? A third? That was a three-step. Maybe because I stopped the server and started it, but I actually refreshed 3 times before we saw that. So I don't know, but that's kind of one of the workflows that you'll be doing as you develop locally your PWA. Again, remember, incognito mode is going to be your friend, so that because the service worker is getting registered in here, right? So it won't be registered under your thing, because you can come in here and you can unregister these. I think that's what I've run into, is when I'm using my user account in Google Chrome and I do this and I got a service worker in there and I'm trying to develop, then I end up having times where I have to unregister it to kind of force clear it. I don't know. So the recommendation that the Angular.io docs say is the incognito browser, and so that's kind of what I'm running here. And then the whole HTTP serve or some other type of light server or something like that provides a different way to serve this app. And the caching thing, I think that caching flag might be important. But again, all that documentation is on Angular.io. Real easy to kind of like follow around that, or pretty straightforward to follow around on that. Okay, so we got that. So now we're going to add this library to handle the local storage stuff. So really what we want in this idea is that we want to take this thing offline, like be able to toggle this thing offline and still be able to fill this stuff out, right? 1 to 2, 3 to 5, whatever, and have that stuff being saved so that then when we reload this thing, we still have that data in there, even though we're in offline mode. So we could launch this thing in multiple days on our mobile device while we don't have connection and have that data. So we're going to add that library next. Let me add one more. Well, no, I'll do that when I add this library, because I'm going to show an output as well of the list of sessions that we've added, so we can see that in action, pulling that from the local storage. But I'll do that as I add this library. But before I do that, I'll put it back into the code. So everybody, I'll cancel, I'll stop this, clear this out. I'll bring this kind of back up here so I can leave that up here for now. I am going to feed my dog over here real quick, and so I will be right back. So I'm going to leave the code up here, and I'll be right back after I give him some food. So hang tight, chat amongst yourselves, and I'll see you in just like a minute. Okay. If I can figure out how to hold on, wait a minute. Let's see, go out of this. Where's this thing? There. Haha. All right, and I'm back. Okay. He'll probably need to go outside here in a minute, so I'll have to run real quick again. But yeah, so he's eating. We're good. All right. All right, so now we got this form. We got this in here. I'm going to go ahead and just commit this code. Add form. Right. Ta-da. We'll commit that. And now we want to bring in this library. So, as I was mentioning, what seems like eternity ago, found this package, this library that's out there. That's awesome. It allows us to work with local storage and actually work with IndexedDB in order to store our data locally without having to worry about the whole API with working with it. It gives us a nice little abstraction layer over that to work with that. And it also provides it via observables. So let me pull this thing up here. So hoping to get his name right, Cyril Touzy, I believe he's French, but he put this library together is this Angular async local storage library that we can add to our projects. I think it's, where's it at here? It's at ngx-pwa/local storage, and then the @6 for this Angular 6 and 7 support version. But basically, this is going to give us this API for working with local storage and IndexedDB, if IndexedDB is available, and handle storing this data so that we can work with this stuff offline. So we're going to make use of that. And I hear my dog at the door, so let me go let him out real quick, and I will be right back once more. All right. Boom. That was like Usain Bolt speed, huh? No? Maybe not? A little bit? Boom. Fast. No. You all are like, what if your door is like right there? Kind of is. Shh, don't tell anyone. Okay. All right. So we're going to add this library so we can make use of this thing, and we can just start persisting our data to there, right? So I'm going to go in here, npm install this thing. So I'll just grab this. Boom. Control copy. Back to the codes. Bring up our terminal. And we're going to install that. Just GPS. Thanks for the follow. I think it's just GPS. It's not, nothing else, just GPS. I like it. All right. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it for sure. All right, npm install -save, and yeah, okay. This is gonna be dependency, so we'll do it there. Yeah. What did I mean? Did I copy paste wrong? Oh, I put -s, install -s. That's not what I want. That's what I want. And Nick, if Nick's watching, he's probably like, man, I've been waiting this whole time to get to this part, right? But hopefully, the PWA part is helpful as well to see that it's like, man, we can set up a PWA in an Angular app pretty quick without a whole lot of stuff. So I've spent a lot of time kind of going through the plumbing or what it actually does, but our actual things that we needed to do to get up and running with those was pretty quick, right? So we got to that. Okay, so we've got local storage in there now. We're ready to use this thing, so I'm going to go back in here, and I think I'm going to turn on the spotlight. Turn on the lights, right? I don't sing, so if I ever sing, just call me out on it, say shut up, right? All right, same thing with dance. I don't dance either. I mean, if you wanted to know, I don't. But my daughter dances, and she just absolutely nails it. She's super good. I don't know, she's her own person, and she's really good at it, but I suck at dancing, so And so don't, you know, Bonnie tried to pull me on the dance floor one time at, what was the NG-Conf like last year? She's like, let's go dance. I'm like, yeah. And I had to run off that stage. Like I was literally like, no, I do not dance. Sorry. I'm just, don't dance. Anybody else dance? Probably, you're all probably really good at dancing, right? Confident, no problem. I don't know. Okay, stay focused. Okay. We are going to make use of this library. So we are going to need to do a few things here. So we've got a couple scenarios, right? We are going to, well, let's first do a constructor here. We need to bring in the service. So see here, I go again. I'm formatting, I'm manually formatting. I just can't, I don't know if it's like, because I've been programming for a gazillion years or whatnot, but like, I just can't get out of the muscle memory of like formatting my code manually. And we got all these great things that do it prettier and all this stuff, right? So I should just be coding what I want and then let that do it and we're good. But for some reason, I can't get it out of me to not do these things, right? I don't know. Constructor, private. I think the service is called local storage. Local storage. And so this is the name of it from that package. So I'm going to make sure I import the right one if it finds it. See, I don't want the window local storage. So I'm going to need to come in here, import. I'm going to do this the other way. Local storage. Man, I just can't type today. I probably, you know, maybe I can't type any day. Let's be real. At ngx PWA local storage. Hey, it found that. That's nice. Okay. Got that. Not sure why we're getting all kinds of squigglies in here. Oh, resolve all parameters. Okay. Okay, so we got our constructor with our local storage. We're ready to start using that now. So let's think about what we're going to do here. We are going to need to load up any data that's in the local storage when this app starts up, right? So we can do that in ng on init. We'll go implements on init, right? Get our IntelliSense and everything working that time, autocomplete or whatever we call it. We are going to, man, Brocky told me yesterday what the shortcut was for VS Code for doing a refactor or implementation, and I already forget it. I spent a lot of time in WebStorm and VS Code going back, and WebStorm is usually the thing that I rode with for the most part because I really love the productivity, but VS Code is just so nice to look at and to be in. Like, the visual aesthetics to me just make me happy. And then for presenting, it rocks. I mean, I can easily increase the font and decrease the font size of the entire application and all these things. So I don't know. So I decided that's it. Just full-blown VS Code from here on out. But now I got to get back to remembering what all those shortcuts are and stuff like that, right? I will. Not right now, though, but I will. Okay, on init. So we do this after the constructor, ng on init. Sure. It's nothing. We'll type it correctly. Void, return void. And then in here, what we want to do is we want to load data from local storage, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. We just want to load it. And then when we save, we want to save it to the local storage. And that's it. And then we're probably going to want to delete method, so we'll delete. And we don't know yet how we will delete it, but we'll just do void. And then this is going to be delete from local storage, right? So pretty straightforward, a little kind of CRUD work here, I think. Create, read, update, delete, but no updates, just create, read, and delete. CRID. All right, code grid. Okay. So we can, let's go to the documentation. What can we do about, so we got the set item, get item. Is there something up here? No, okay. So we can set an item like that. We can remove an item. We can get an item. Looks like they're strong typed. We can do strong typing in there. Cool. So get an item is really what we're going to want to do, but we might need to set an item first. So we need to kind of think about what that data is going to look like, right? And we could just I can certainly just put this in here, like add these individually, but am I going to have some ID, that sort of thing? So I'm thinking like, I think I'll just collect an array of sessions. And so when I go to save it, when I save the local storage, what I need to do is I need to add this new one to the array of sessions. And then persist to local storage, right? I think that sounds probably right. And then when I delete one, I'm going to need to remove it from the array. So if it's going to be an array, I'm probably going to need by index, right? And then save to persist to local storage. That makes sense, right? Okay. So then if I say, okay, if I go back here and I look at this API for this thing, and I think about, okay, so what is set item? Set item is going to take in a key for that item, whatever we want to call it. So I guess this is going to be sessions, and then it's going to be the sessions array, and it's a subscribe. So one of the things with this library is it uses observables, and it uses observables that are self-completing. So it's kind of like the HTTP server, HTTP service in Angular, where when you call like a get, a set, or a get or put, post, delete sort of thing, you subscribe to it and then it's self-completing. Like you don't have to unsubscribe from it. It does its one thing and then is done. And so this API is set up that same way. So we have to subscribe to take that observable that's prepped for us and tell it, do your thing. And then we don't have to unsubscribe or anything, but we do need to call subscribe in order to make that action happen, right? So we're just setting the item, passing it in, giving it the key where it's going to go, and then subscribe. And then when we're getting them, it gives us this ability to use this generic to give it a type to get them, and then find it by that key, and then we subscribe, and that's what gets it out, right? Same way we kind of do with the HTTP service. When we subscribe to a get call, we then can, in this callback function that we're handing it, or the function we're handing it, can get the results of that call and then do whatever we need to do with it, right? Okay, so let's go back to the code. And so I'm going to need an array of sessions, right, to add to. And if I come in here and I go load from local storage, and let's say I'm going to save this as sessions, and it's going to be an array of sessions. So why don't I type that? So I'm going to give it a session like that, and then I'll create a, down here beneath our class, I'll create an interface, call it session, and this is going to be start time. We'll just do string for now, end time, string for now. Can everybody hear my dog barking? He wants to be let back in. He's just gonna have to wait a minute. Start time, end time, boom, boom, boom. So now we got a session, so it's gonna be an array of those is what's gonna be in the sessions. If we go load from local storage, what if we do this dot sessions equals, actually no, we're gonna, because we gotta subscribe to this thing, so we're gonna do this dot local storage dot get item, and this is going to be an array of sessions. That's what we're gonna get. So we can do that, I think. And then we do sessions, that's what we'll store it as inside of the storage. And then we'll do subscribe, subscribe, and we will give it a callback or a function to run, right? And this is going to receive, hopefully, sessions. And now we got a name issue here, right? So now I'm going to be like sessions equals sessions. That's going to kind of mask that other session. So what should I do here? Well, let's just ride with that for now. Because this would look like this. This would be like this dot sessions equals sessions. Okay. All right, so that'll get the sessions. But I think, let me go back to the documentation, because I think there might be an issue when this first loads. There's not going to be any sessions in the storage, right? So what is this thing gonna return to me? Can I find this out here? Let's see. Reading the data. Not finding an item is not an error. It succeeds but returns null. Okay. So if I subscribe to the data and there's no data there inside of the storage yet, it will be null. That's the value that's going to get returned. So I can go back here in the code, and what I really need to do is I need to go, okay, if sessions is triple equals null, right? I need to create that at that point because I don't have any, so I have to seed it with the initial data structure because we got this data that we need to store. So it's sessions, and we can set that equal to an empty array, right? Now I guess I just need to figure out, do I want to, at this point, because we didn't have one, we're gonna need one anytime we go to add to it to local storage maybe. So do I want to set this in local storage at this point? That's a question. Obviously it's a question. So I could say, well, hey, it was null in local storage, so let's create the initial one. Or do we just leave it null in local storage until the first thing is created? I think I like that second, the latter. So if there's none, if there's null, it's going to do this, else it'll do that. All right. Something like that. So we got back null. Actually, we want this dot sessions equal to a new array. Otherwise, we'll set it equal to what we got back. And we could shorten this up a little bit, right? We could do this dot sessions equals, and if session any s's, session triple equals null. We can do an array. Otherwise, we can do sessions. I missed an s. Jump back over here. And so we can kind of inline that if else, right? I don't know how everybody feels about that. Like, do you enjoy writing your if else's, if else, or do you like the shorthand, or does it depend on how deep? I usually take it the thing where if I kind of got like one line right here, I'll usually inline it right here. Otherwise, if it gets a little more complex than that, then I'll use the if else block. All right, I'm going to jump that out of here. It depends on readability. Digital drummer, it depends on readability. I fully agree with you. Actually, in my last stream, I was talking a little bit about that, about how I kind of mentally approach looking at code and making sure if code is more readable, I always use the opt-in for the naming and all that stuff that helps it more human readable, so that as we work on it later, 6 months down the road, that it's easy for us to consume what that code is doing. So yeah, definitely readability is kind of like the winning factor, right? That can help us make those decisions. I agree. So I guess if this is session equal null, then we'll do this, else we'll do that. I think that's okay for this type of thing. It's pretty simple. Or pretty short, that sort of thing. Okay. So I got that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the code to save it. So we'll do that here. My dog is barking, and now the neighbor's dog is barking. Let me run really quick, super fast, go let him back in, and I'll be right back. BRB, okay? Be right back. I'm pretty certain I might have the world's most neediest dog, but I could be wrong because I don't meet a whole lot of other dogs. So my pool of statistics is pretty small. So maybe not, but he needs to be like wherever I'm at. And then if he's not, he'll sit there and bark and complain and blah blah blah. Anyways, I'm streaming. Okay. So let's save this thing. So we go into here and we say, we'll leave our console log in there for a minute. We're going to do this dot local storage. That library. A little confusing, right? This is not the browser local storage library. Comes with regular JavaScript for the browser. This is this library. So just kind of clarify that. So local storage, get item. And just to be another comment on that, like I've built code to work with the local storage and I've named it local storage as well and struggled with what to name it. So not to be anything that's like, well, this local storage name choice is wrong. I've done the same thing. It's hard to figure out like, what do you want to name this thing when that's what it's working with, or that's, especially the local storage, like that's the concept, right? And there's like this local storage and then IndexedDB, but they're all kind of like local storage of data. So it gets hard to decide what you're going to call it, right? Okay. Yeah, digital drummer. Naming is hard, especially when you let developers name things. Yeah, well, anything, right? Anything. Naming my daughter was hard. It was difficult. I don't know. Okay, so get item. No, we're going to do, yeah, we need to get the items, right? No, we need to add this thing to, I'm going to turn off this spotlight because I don't want to see this other code here. So at this point, we are going to add it to the sessions and then persist the sessions to local storage. So this dot sessions dot push form dot value to get to that value object, and then this dot local storage dot say, where's my set item? I hear my fan spinning. Is this hey, hi, how's it going? How's it going, IntelliSense? Nice to see you. Are we still calling it IntelliSense? Autocomplete? I don't know. Is it my old back in the day Visual Studio IntelliSense? Why I'm saying that? I don't know. All right. Set item, IntelliSense, autocomplete, whatever. I think it's autocomplete. I don't know. Anybody can correct me if you want. let me know if you know what it is. We're going to set this to call sessions. Delphi Jedi. All right. Haven't done it. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Thank you. Anything with Jedi in it, it's okay with me. Big Star Wars fan. I don't know if you can see. No, you can't see. If you catch Angular Air every weekday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Sometimes it varies, but Angular Air, you can check out angularair.com if you don't know where that's at. But when I do that podcast, we do a video podcast. We have guests on each week that come on and talk about Angular, show us some stuff, teach us some stuff, sort of thing. It's an hour long. But I have my widescreen camera going on, and you usually can see my Empire Strikes Back poster hanging on the wall, my faves movie of all time. So, yeah, anything with Jedi in it, it's okay with me. And Star Trek's fine too. Anything's fine. I like a lot of stuff, so we're good on anything. So if y'all don't like Star Wars, that's fine too. So we're all good. Okay, sessions. And I don't know if Delphi Jedi is using Jedi because of Star Wars Jedi, but anywho, thanks a ton for the follow. Really appreciate it. All right, we're gonna set this item. We're gonna give it the second the second argument that we're gonna give it is this dot sessions. And this brings up a kind of thought, right? I'm handing it this array. It's an object. It's a pointer to that array in the whole state of things. Is this going to be a problem? And from what I am familiar with local storage and IndexedDB and that sort of thing, is that this stuff is going to get serialized down into JSON and then get sent in as a string. So I think that we're going to be okay that this is going in there. And I guess I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope that this set item method, and I can certainly look at the code, right? But with something we might want to explore, right, is that this set item doesn't have any side effects. It's not going to do anything to the object that gets sent in that might change it or tweak it, because I'm actually handing it the reference to this array that this class is using. So I could solve it by doing something like the spread operator, right? Actually, I don't know if this might make a nested array. I got to think about this for a minute, but something like that where we, essentially clone the object to send it in to be safe. But right now I'm just going to go like this. I think that it'll probably be all right, but that might be something we might have to debug or think about as we go forward, right? But using this library is, can I send it in a reference, and is it not going to do any side effects to it? Okay. So set item, and then we need to subscribe to that. I'll do that in a new line, .subscribe, right? Okay. And so that should handle adding it to the local storage and persisting it. And I guess what I could do is I could clear that form inside of here. So just in case I want to handle it. Now, I think this library, go back to this library real quick. I think it provides support for scenarios where you have an error. You could just do your kind of RxJS operators on it to do, let's see, where's it at? Find error. Yeah, so since this is an observable, right, we could pass it a second function that will handle any case of error. So we could come in here and do that, or do it with an operator, right? The catch error, I think it is operator. I can't remember completely offhand, but something like that in this observable world to handle a scenario where this doesn't save for some reason, which we might want to do, right? But for here, we're not going to do that. We're just going to give this a success function. And in this success function, we will clear the form. And since we don't need the pseudocode, I'm going to delete that. We kind of got this, save local storage, add a new one to the array of sessions, then persist it to local storage. That's what we're doing. Cool. Get that out of there. Load data from local storage. We're good on that. Get that out of there, right? Okay. Got that. Saving setting item local storage sessions, this sessions. When it's done, we will reset the form, making the assumption that everything's going to go fine and it'll finish, go to the form out, and then we're good on that. And then so the delete, we are going to, and I'm writing a lot of code right now. Well, not a lot, but I mean, I'm going pretty far in code before even opening up a browser and checking this. So hopefully I won't be building too much of a mess here where we open up and there's like 5 different things to figure out what might not be working. But we'll see. Okay, delete. So actually I want to leave this kind of pseudocode here so I can figure it out. Okay, so delete from local storage. We want to remove it from the array by the index and then persist it to local storage. So we're going to assume that we're going to get an index in here, index, and that'll be a number. And we will go this dot sessions index. Right, this we want to we're going to mutate this thing. Yeah, let's just do that for now because I have some. Actually, I have a little secret. I have something that I have planned for this here to refactor this a little bit. So for right now, I'm just going to do this sessions dot slice. I think I can do a splice. Let's do splice. How about splice? Yeah, so splice. And we're going to say at the index, and we'll just remove one of them. And that's going to mutate our array, right? It's going to actually remove it from sessions. And then we're going to save this to local storage. So it's going to look just like this, but without the success function, because we don't need that, because we don't need to reset the form at this point. Okay, so that looks good. I think that's fine. All right. Okay, so we don't have anything in our UI that shows us our sessions. So let's go up here and add something in there. How about P? I don't know why this is not past sessions. Like that, and I'm all over with my title case. I got login use session all, just sentence. I'll do this like that. Yay, we'll do a UL, LI, see my, there it is, okay. We'll do that, and we will do an ng4, set that equal to let session of sessions. Okay, I'm gonna share with you how I remember this. Okay, is it is it session in sessions or sessions as sessions, or like how do you remember it's let this of this? The way that I train myself to do that is it's let Game of Thrones. So big Game of Thrones fan. I don't know if anybody else is. Pretty hyped about a couple days from now, final season starts. But that's how I remember the syntax and the order of things for the ng4 is let Game of Thrones. So it's let session of sessions. Actually, if you think about it, it kind of doesn't work because Game of Thrones, it's like it wouldn't be let Throne of Thrones. I don't know, but it helps me remember the of part, the order, this of this, right? So Game of Thrones is how I remember the ng4 syntax. All right, and we do that, and we're coming in here, and we're like session dot start time to session dot end time, right? Cool. Okay, looks good. Of course, I'm not doing any type of like form validation or formatting or anything like that. We're just seeing how we can do the persistence, right? Boom, got that. So that's going to give us our output. We will see that happening. I challenge everyone who's watching to think about what this might happen here, kind of problems we might have here with this. I think we're going to have an issue, so I think I have a solution for that, but we'll touch on that in a minute. So let's see this in action. Let's see if we can get this this stuff persisting, and then if we can see if we can turn this thing offline and see the data going, right? So we're going to serve boot. We will go back to our offline mode. I will bring this up a little bit so we can see if this is finishing. We are almost done. I'm going to be wrapping this up here pretty soon. So we're getting there. Thanks for sticking around and going through it. Hope everybody's enjoying it. All right, so we're good. We'll reload. Still no love. Maybe I had to wait, be patient a little bit. No? What's going on here? Where's my past sessions? Oh, I didn't, wait, no, my command builds, right? So I should be building. So I should be seeing this in here. What's going on? Hard reload? I mean, we just got this simple layout stuff. What did I take out ng build? What do I got? Let me kill this off. Stop this. I'll do an ng build -- prod. Look at my dist directory. Oh, am I going to be able to see this? Am I going to be able to see this? It's going to be in the JavaScript, so I'm going to not do that. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Offline mode. WW Rafter. Yeah, that's might help to uncheck offline mode, right? So it can actually go to the server and get the updated files. Okay, am I still running the server? I'm not, so let me go start that again. Wow, that was a good catch. I know, right? Details. The details are important. Even if it's just ticking the offline box. Super important, right? How are you? What did I do here? Oh, over here. Haha. Now I've got offline unchecked, so we're online. Refresh that. 1, 2. No? What's going on? I thought for sure that was going to be it. Maybe because I'm in this browser session and this is the scenario with the ng service worker and I got to unregister it. Let me see about opening a new one. Putting this in here. Haha. Okay, so I think, guessing that session and the caching and all that stuff, something changed, so I'm going to need to unregister this and register this. So like if I unregistered that service worker and I reloaded it now we see it, okay. So I'm not completely clear on what determines when that happens, when I'm going to need to do that. Nick. Okay, Nick, WW Raptor Nick. Thank you. All right, Nick. Thanks for that call. Yeah, so, okay. So I guess there's some scenarios where that happens. I'll need to look in and find out what the mind map is around that, of like why I was needed to do that at that point, or unregister it or start it in a new browser to force that update sort of thing. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this other new one here. Okay, so now we've got this in here, we got the start, we got the end. I think that we can do this thing here and figure out what we got. We got none in there right now. If we go to application and IndexedDB, so this library is storing it in IndexedDB. We don't have anything in there yet. Let's add one and see what happens. So again, we'll get it up at 6 a.m., be done at 8 a.m. Save that. Okay, we've got it. We added it to our sessions, which we had in the code in that backing field, right? We saw that update in our field. We still have our console log. If I refresh this database, will this show this? Or is it in local storage? No, where's that? There. Okay, got to drill down. Local storage sessions, value array. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Yeah, there it is. Start time, end time, right? Let's add another one. Let's say I go out for an evening session. So I didn't stream that night, so I went out at 5 p.m. and I got done at 7 p.m. Boom, boom. Okay, we got that in there. This, have to refresh it. Now we got two in there. Now here comes the magical time, right? Let's just refresh this browser, see if our local storage still has it. Okay, it refreshed. It was really fast. I don't know if you saw it. And it loaded them back up from local storage in our ng on init. So we have those there, right? I need to add a delete button in here. But we got those in there. I can add another one, 4 to 6 or whatever. Boom, boom, boom. We got that in there. Refresh again. Okay, so now, shall we go offline? See what this does. Let's go service worker. Let's go offline. Let's refresh it. Okay, so now we're in the wild. We're away from an internet connection, right? We're in the canyons. We don't have any service, but we want to be able to work with our data that we've already loaded into our app. Refresh. Boom, we still got it. Cool. I don't know what these errors are for fetching the scripts. I think maybe because it's trying to do some of the other scripts. I don't know. Actually, I'm not even going to comment on it because I don't know. But our app is still functioning fine in terms of what we've written so far. So we got it, loaded it up. Can we add some stuff? Let's see, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Cool, we got that. Still offline. Let's refresh it again. Refresh it. Okay, our 3 to 6 is still in there. So now effectively I've got this app. I can add data to it while I'm offline. It's still stored in there, right? Cool. And I think that's kind of like what we're wanting to do here, right? Is some initial data, which in this case, I'm loading it via very beginning in the form. But I could certainly do something like maybe present a form that allows you to upload a JSON file to then seed it with your data, or you could write it into the app, right? I guess the trick part, if you wrote it into the app to preload that data, then every time you build and deploy and somebody gets that app, when they first run it, you'd have to handle the scenario of like loading that initial data, but also respecting any data that they had already. So maybe you want to start with having your app have a way to send it a file, dynamically. So then you're total control of your local storage, and the app is not really seeding your local storage with something where it has to deal with that, right? But we can see this in action. It's pretty cool. Now we can have this way, and it's not a whole lot of stuff to do, right? We can add that Angular PWA to an Angular CLI app. We can use the minimal flag to get something easy and started for us, and we can make use of this local storage library and get in a scenario where we can just start saving data and have this application that runs offline for us to work with stuff, right? So I can start logging my surf sessions or do whatever, Nick, do whatever you need to do, right? You can kind of get up and running with this sort of thing. So hopefully you can see that working. Let me add, I'm coming in here and I'll add a delete so we can kind of see that as well, make sure that works good. So I need to add some UI for that. SebSob07, what is the storage limit? That's a great question. I think that the documentation has a link to some descriptions on that, so I'll pull that up here in a second. Let me add this delete, and when I get back to the browser, I'll pull that up. So we'll add a button. Call this delete. I'm not worried about the UI look right now. So we got to do a click event, right? Click event, Angular, and we're going to call delete. And now we got to send it the index. So I do not have a fancy Game of Thrones or some other TV series to remember this yet, but if anybody does, I'm open to hearing it. I believe it's let, so semicolon, and this is the ng4 in the template syntax, let I equal index. And index is like a keyword that it knows to look for, and so we can map that to a variable named I, and then we can utilize that within this ng4 block, right? And we can pass in I, and that should give us the index of where that thing is at in the array. And then so when we click, we're going to call our delete method, passing in that index. It's going to take that index and splice our array, and then it's going to set that item, the array, back into the sessions to override and give us our new sessions set of data. I am going to need to ng build. I'm going to actually open up another terminal window here. Ng build dash prod, and let's do dash watch just in case we make any other changes. And so this will continuously build it. I don't know if the server needs to be watched. I don't know. We'll see. And while this is building, I'll go back here to the browser. We'll go to the getting started, limit. No, this is on the I think this letter is limit. No. Browser support guide, maybe it's in here. No, let's see. Yeah, so we'd have to look that up, you know, do a Google search on the storage limit, but I'm pretty certain that it's going to be fine. I think it's like a percentage. There's like a percentage of storage for that Chrome uses or something, and then iOS and Edge use like 5 megabytes, something like that. There's a hard number or something. But for data, right? Like for this type of data that we're talking about, that's like these logs and things like that. It's pretty generous, and I think that's per application. So you know, each application is going to get that reserved, and then I think what'll happen is if you happen to max out, then the browser will just make decisions on how to throttle that down, right, and what to remove. So it is something that you need to kind of be aware of in terms of local storage of, you know, there's this amount, but it's not necessarily, you know, per domain, right? Yeah, per domain. And it's not necessarily guaranteed. And, you know, so probably ideally would be that you'd have some way to save this out, right? To save this data out that you've built up in the local storage. And that could be something, you know, to get running, could just be something as simple as saying, you know, write that sessions data to a JSON file and then force the download from the browser from our app so that we could download it to our device. Maybe we could do that even in here. It might be pretty cool to have that in this application where we had like a download button and it could download the .json file of that data, and we could do that on our phone. So even as we're remote, we could download that file and have it on our phone downloads as a way of kind of like manually backing it up, right, as we go forward or something. Or, you know, if we want to invest in the time in setting up a server and then having this thing while it's online, persisting that data out to a server and that sort of thing, right? Is it SebSob07? SebSob07? My web app only works with the internet. Is it worth making it a PWA? Yeah, I mean, depends, right? Depends. But some of the things you get with the PWA is this mix of the manifest file, which somebody can, you know, helps with that whole, you know, add to my desktop, add to my home screen on like tablet devices and phones and stuff like that. So that's part of the equation, and that gives you that. And that's a nice little experience that allows people to kind of pin your site to there and quickly launch it as if it's a native app. And then the other thing is the service worker and all the things the service worker brings, like caching assets and stuff. And so like in this case, we're talking about an app that we can kind of have Seb. Okay, Seb, cool. I'll call you Seb. I like that. So in this case, we're talking about like an app that you can be running offline and do a bunch of, you know, some stuff, logging and looking up some data and then adding some new data or changing or tweaking it or whatnot. But this could certainly be used in a case where, let's say you have a shell for your app, right? And you want the time to render and the feeling for somebody that they're actually getting some experience out of your app. They're not waiting for it to load all the other bits. You can make use of the service worker stuff to provide stuff like an app shell, like your main nav or something like that, that is cached, that then that way, whenever somebody hits it, the service worker is going to pull that cache. The end user is going to see something in their browser right away because it's coming from local cache. And then all your other calls could be actually requesting the additional views, that sort of thing. So there's elements that you can utilize for it to help the experience of your app, even if your app's like always online, right? And yeah, as Nick says, I would say it depends on how frequently the data changes and desired response times. Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, so Seb, it's a kind of game with a leaderboard that updates in real time. Okay. Yeah, see, I think that would be pretty cool because then people could launch this leaderboard app, right? And you could have the shell of it, the structure, the borders, whatever you've got on that shows right away. And then you could also have that part that shows loading in the middle if you want a spinner or something like that. And then so people get the feeling that like a native app, right? When you launch a native app, a lot of times these native apps will launch instantly on these devices, right? And so this would give that same feel, not only on a mobile device or tablet, but also on your desktop app. Somebody would see something right away. They would see your interface for your leaderboard and then would see that the leaderboard part of the data is loading. And it could be a nice experience there. As well as those different assets and things like that. Like you can cache these assets. So images and things like that you're using can be cached with this service worker, and then it doesn't have to go out there. Now, but the browser will do some caching on that as well. So I don't know if that's really the key there, but yeah. So Seb asked, I'd only have to cache the page. So let's go back to the code really quick here. If we look at this ngsw-config that the Angular PWA stuff provides, we can define what we're caching, right? So we're caching the index.html, the favicon, all CSS, and all JS. You have control over that. So for what the service worker will do. So you can tweak this all out and change it, remove stuff, add stuff. So you can define what that caching scenario is like. And I think there's also you can cache HTTP calls, remote calls as well. I'm pretty sure. I guess I better not say 100%, but I'm pretty sure that you can cache those calls as well, so that you can control whether or not resources, remote resources, get cached or not. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with it, so that's pretty cool. Yes, and Nick makes the point that you could show the last winners if you were offline. So like if somebody is disconnected, you could still show them some data and stuff like that. Yeah. I think the key thing, the cool thing is that if you're doing an Angular CLI project and you use the @Angular/PWA, like it's real simple to get all that stuff added that you need, and then you can leverage it, right? Now, of course, you get that scenario like the refresh scenario that we had, which things can kind of get kind of weird. You have to now deal with the double refresh or notifying people they need to update their app. So you might be adding that to your app and have to deal with that. But other than that, a lot of the other stuff is almost like, cool, we've got this. Now it's an additional plus for my app, whether I'm always online or offline or not, right? So, all right, so let me pop up in this, our offline PWA. Let's reload it. See if, I'm offline. Let's see if that's going to matter. I think that'll matter. Okay, so I've got an error. What do I got? Failed to register service worker. Failed to register service work. Oh, do I not have the server running? Maybe I don't have the server running. Let me stop this build, go back to this other bash. Did it not build? ng service worker, oh, it's there. Let me stop it and start it again. Oops. Okay. Ooh, there's our button. Okay, so we got our delete button in here. So let me drive me nuts here, drive this down. Okay, we've got, we can add another one. 4 to 7, we can delete. So let's delete the first one. We're going to delete 6 to 8, right? Oh, let's take us offline. Delete 6 to 8. Let's refresh. Cool, it's gone, right? Delete our 4 to 6. Delete, cool, that's gone. Refresh. All right, all right. So I think we are good, right? We got this thing working. We're able to add. It works offline. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm feeling pretty good about this baseline that we've got. I can see that we could take this, you know, so many different ways from here now and really kind of get up and going. Yeah. Okay, so there's some discussion about checking what time is cached. Can you detect if you're online? So last thing then I'll show you, let me go back to the documentation here. So Angular.io, again, this is where we're at. We come in here, we got the initial setup. So we go communicating with service workers. We can follow this documentation and we can see that there's some additional services that we offer, like SW update. That's Angular provides SW update. And see, we can use this to determine if there's an update for your app. So when it knows that code has been changed, this is how we can programmatically work with that and do different things, letting the user know if there's updates. Let's see, checking for updates. We can call code to actually check to see if that needs an update. I don't know if there's anything additional services or anything that package provides that allows you to do things like checking, you know, if you're online. You may need to hand roll that or whatnot, but yeah. So that's kind of an initial setup with Angular PWA. Get all the stuff needed to go for that. Adding some form logic, some real basic template-driven forms to allow us to work with that data, and then leveraging this great library that was out here, the Cyril Tuzi created. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Again, this is at ngx-pwa/local storage. Technically called this here, Angular async local storage. Really cool, made it easy to work with that local storage as well. So yeah, and actually I was wondering if I was going to need to do something like a subject or something in my component in order to work with this session array as it got changed and things like that, in order to do like the actual reload in the browser of that list items and stuff like that. But it looks like we've got that all kind of covered with Angular and the reference comparison and the change detection and stuff like that. So everything seems good on that. So looks good. LGTM looks good to me. I don't know. Hope it looks good to everybody else. Nick, I hope that gave you some inspiration, some ideas and ways that you can kind of tackle and get that app built before you go out in the offline world and have to have some fun, but also still want to utilize that application that you're going to build. Certainly want to hear more about it. Certainly want to hear how you go with that and how it worked out, and would love to hear what you discovered, what you ran into. You need to have challenges or anything like that for sure. So awesome. I will work on throwing this up on a repo, and I will tweet that out. My handle on Twitter is @Schwarty, so I'll tweet it out through there. Hopefully everybody has Twitter and can catch it there. I'm trying to think of the other spots. I think maybe what I'll do is also maybe on my Twitch TV landing page I'll put a link to like the repository, or the my user on GitHub, so that everybody can kind of go there and discover these things or whatever. So cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all the follows today. I really appreciate it. All those follows are helping to get visibility on the stream, as well as kind of unlock some additional stuff on Twitch. I think I want to get to 50 followers and unlock some stuff, so looking forward to getting to that. But really appreciate all the follows and everybody tuning in. And I'm certainly I love this thing where Nick had this call to action that he put out there, and I was able to help out with that. So if anybody else has any of these things that, think about, if it's something that could be contained within an hour or two, right? Can't certainly build like, how do I build my customer management system? Like, I could do that, but I'd be streaming forever. But would love to take on other things like that to help people out. So give me a shout out. Tweet it out, let me know, reach out to me. Hey, I would love, I'm having trouble figuring out this, and I'll see what I can do about throwing up a stream and walking through doing that and be helpful, hopefully. So, all right, awesome. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good one. I will catch you next time. Later.